Good morning. Hey, you're looking good today. This is Frank Phillips in the Brazil Times newsroom. And what on earth is going to be more important to talk about today than the World Series Championship Chicago Cubs? Fantastic. I mean, just absolutely fantastic. I went to bed last night thinking it was all over. The score was 6-6. The Cubs had blown their 4-run lead in the 8th inning. It started to rain. The players were crying, and it was just not looking good. So I thought, well, I'd better go to bed and get some sleep. Steve Bell's here. Hi, Steve. Well, I tell you, a lot of people in the Wabash Valley care about the Chicago Cubs. I'm thinking about a couple of people right now, in particular. Mike Peterson, my old friend Mike Peterson, who I got to know back in the 1990s, and we've been friends ever since then. He is a diehard Cubs fan. He really is, and he puts up with a lot of grief from the rest of us, and I'll put myself in the us column with that. I can remember back earlier in the season when Mike started talking about how good the Cubs looked, and I remember looking at him, and I think I said out loud, well, wait till the All-Star break and then see what happens, because the Cubs have a history of collapsing after the All-Star break. But he said, no, they look good. And I said, okay. So he was right. We were sitting in a Rotary meeting, eating lunch, and he said that, and I'll never forget it. Mike, you were absolutely correct. And the Cubs went all the way. Chris Gamble, the attorney from Terre Haute, he was at the Clay City Town Council meeting this week because he's the Town Council's attorney. And he was telling us about multi-generations of his family being Cubs fans. And in fact, during the meeting, he told us he got a text from someone who was at his house and saying, hey, we're getting ready to watch the game. And I know Chris wanted to get home in time to see the Cubs play. And, of course, they did, and they won. My grandfather. Now, you've got to understand, I grew up in southwestern Lower Michigan. I tell everybody I grew up in the shadow of the Golden Dome of Notre Dame, and I really did, about 10 miles north of Notre Dame. Well, Grandpa was a diehard Cubs fan as well, and I can always remember him sitting there in his easy chair. Behind him was their bedroom, and if he didn't have the Cubs on the radio while he was sitting in the recliner and listening to the game, then he would be watching it on TV. And that was in the days before cable, when he actually got WGN TV over the air. He had a good antenna and was able to do that. So it was just absolutely great last night. And, of course, I was thinking about my Grandpa Phillips as the Cubs, when I found out that the Cubs won. That was kind of strange because I went to bed, 4 o'clock I woke up, and I thought, well, I'm going to just see what happened. And I had hopes, but I wasn't planning my future on the Cubs winning. And I got up and I looked at my phone, and our internet wasn't working. So I turned on the TV, and I saw Channel 13 out of Indianapolis reporting that the Cubs won the World Series, and I didn't believe it. So I went in and I had to reset my Wi-Fi router in the middle of the night. And I got the internet working again. And then I looked at the internet on my phone, and sure enough, the Cubs won and came back in spectacular style. Now, it looked to me like in the 10th inning, they scored 2 runs, and then Cleveland came back in the bottom of the 10th, but they could only get 1 run. So the Cubs ended up winning the World Series. My only other Cubs story to tell is the time I took my 5-year-old son to Wrigley Field to watch a Cubs game. And as we were waiting to go inside, a guy outside was trying to sell tickets, and I started talking to him, which is hard to believe since I am so shy and retiring. But I started talking to him, and he said yes. He says he was an employee of the FBI. He was an FBI agent. And he had been reassigned from Chicago to Washington, D.C., and so he was supposed to meet 2 of his friends there at Wrigley Field, and they were going to make a day of it together before he moved on to Washington. Well, they didn't show up, and so he offered to sell me his tickets. I think it was just very cheap, $5 a piece, I think. So I took them, and I thought, well, I don't know, maybe it's a scam. We'll see. And got to the ticket window, or go through the gate to get into the game, and no, the tickets were real. And sure enough, the 2 seats were seated next to him, and so we watched, and there wasn't a lot going on in the game that day. I'm not even sure who they were playing that day, to be honest about it. But he and I were talking about whatever he could tell me about the FBI. And my little 5-year-old son, he got kind of restless. So there wasn't much going on, and I said, okay. He was ready to go, and I said, okay, let's go. So I said goodbye to our new FBI friend, and we got up and walked out. Well, I had a big radio with me, and so I turned on the radio, and I'm not kidding, as soon as we left Wrigley Field and got past the gate, everything broke loose. I mean, the Cubs just went to town, and the other team just went to town, and it ended up being a very exciting game. So I still point that out to my son about the time that he pulled me out of the Cubs game just when it got good. Well, anyway, I hope you have an outstanding day today. I want to say hi to my sister-in-law, Carolyn Davis, who's a big Cubs fan, and I know she was excited about the victory last night, as was Mike Peterson. I read both of their posts on Facebook overnight. Paulette Tyken, hi, Paulette, glad to see you today. Marla Tyler is here. Did I get that name right? I think so. Yep. Hold it. Let me pull it up here. Got to do this professional thing here and see exactly who that is. Hold on. We'll get it. Let's see. Maria Tyler. Okay. Sorry about that, Maria. My eyes just aren't working today as they sometimes don't. And Jane Robbins is here as well. So we're glad to have all you folks here with us today. And thank you for your support with our little internet Facebook Live show. And go Cubs, I tell you, wait till next year. This time when we say it, it doesn't mean that they're going to come back and win, but it's going to mean they're continuing their winning streak. So that's great. You have an outstanding day, and we'll see you later.